Okay, then. This is a little article from Polygon. PS Vita manufacture and shipping ends in 2019, executives say. Alas, poor Vita, no successor either. Duh. From Owen S. Good. A senior PlayStation official has given the death date for the PlayStation Vita, 2019. Manufacturing and shipping for Sony's handheld will come to an end sometime that year. Hiroyuki Oda, a senior vice president for Sony Interactive Entertainment, told Famitsu. Otis also said via Jamatsu that there are no plans for a successor handheld, which is a candidate for this year's most obvious statement: hardware deficient. Shuhei Yoshida, Sony's chief of staff, was saying in 2015 that the climate is not healthy for a follow-up to the Vita. The PlayStation Vita launched in 2011. In Japan in 2011, the United States in February 2012, but was buffeted by a variety of trends at the beginning of the decade, including the enormous volume of smartphone and tablet gaming, bullshit, competition from the 3DS, spot on, and ultimately a lack of development support, spot on. Sony stopped developing games for its device in 2015, and the platform became something of a backwater for small-scale indie games as opposed to console-sized experiences taken on the go. Earlier this year, Sony ended the production of physical media Vita games and announced that Vita games would no longer be given out with PlayStation Plus subscription. For whatever reason, and there are a host of them, and there are even more reasons if we were drinking beer, Vita just didn't reach that critical mass with the audience, and thereby the development community doesn't get behind in it, and thereby the audience doesn't come. It's a quick negative spiral effect. Sean Layden, the Sony Interactive Entertainment of America president, told Polygon in an interview last year. I'll give you my take on this after the cut. So this should be fairly obvious. The Vita failed because of, some pretty obvious reasons. Now, I started, in the article I said, the first reason they gave, well, there was competition with mobile gaming and tablets. That's bullshit. All right? And the reason it's bullshit is because if that was the case, the 3DS wouldn't be, 75 million strong, right? That's like saying, well, the reason console games don't sell well is because consoles aren't selling well is because competition with computers, which Microsoft and Sony have tried to say. That's a bullshit statement. Here's the reason that the Vita failed. The Vita failed because basically you had a cheaper alternative with the 3DS. Because the 3DS, even when it launched at $279, was still cheaper than the Vita at launch, which was, I want to say the Vita at launch was like $350. Like if you wanted the high-end model, it was $399, and then they got that price down to like $300. It was still more expensive than the 3DS. So right off the bat, it was too expensive, and you had a cheaper alternative. And finally, you didn't have first-party games coming to the system. All right, you did not have first-party games coming to the Vita. You didn't. If I remember correctly, Sony put 2 first-party games on the system. Like big, major, high-tier, well-known first-party games on the system. And they were, let's see, you had God of War, Chains of Olympus, which was a mobile, it was basically, they tried really hard to put the PS2, PS3 experience on the Vita, and it failed because it's a fucking handheld. It's not really designed for that. And then they put, an Uncharted game on the system, and it wasn't that good because, Uncharted is a game that needs to be enjoyed on home console. The whole idea of trying to bring the console experience into the handheld doesn't work because, they're 2 different markets. The handheld market is different from the console market. They're 2 completely different markets. People want 2 completely different things when they're using those 2 consoles. Those 2 experiences, typically speaking, especially at that time. So Sony fucked up. They didn't support the consoles, so third-party developers didn't have a reason to really, outside of Japan, where the overhead was really low. you could have a small studio of maybe 8 to 20 people make a game for a very low amount because they subsidized the Vita in Japan because that's the only market where it was doing well. Subsidize the game to get made in Japan, and they could make, like, a little small indie developer could make that game just for that market. They didn't have to pay for translation because it was staying in Japan. It wasn't as heavily regulated in Japan, which is why you had a lot of damn near Arrow games on the system, like kind of pervy hentai-esque games on the system. Not quite to that level, but close, like kind of, waifu shit. And they failed. It totally and completely failed. So, I mean, that's just how it is. The Vita just failed. It failed because Sony didn't support it. It failed because Sony didn't put first-party games on it that were compelling and gave people a reason to own it. So, So with that being said, I guess we'll get to the next part after the cut. So, basically, we know that the Vita failed because Sony didn't support it with first-party games. But here's a dirty little secret that Sony doesn't want to tell you. Sony doesn't have the infrastructure to make a lot of first-party games right now. All right, they've consolidated a lot of studios, and the quality of first-party games that the quantity of first-party games they've been putting out has been going down. And in my opinion, I mean that's a fact. You can look at the amount of first-party games Sony has been putting out each console gen, and it's been going down each console gen. So you're not exactly seeing a huge amount of new first-party games coming out for Sony. Like the first gen, you had a lot of first-party IPs coming from Sony. Their second console gen, which is the PS2, not as many as the first, but still a decent amount. But really, this third gen, it started with the PS3. The amount of first-party games coming from Sony have not been nearly as high as they used to be back in the day. So Sony is not really in the we're bringing out quality first-party games anymore. They just don't do it. Okay, so I mean they don't have the infrastructure. So, and this is with their primary console, the PS4. So if they don't have the infrastructure to really put out a ton of first-party games for their own home console, which is successful, sure as hell well they don't have the infrastructure to put out games for their handheld if they had another handheld. So I don't see them doing that. I think at the most you might see Sony throw their hat seriously into the mobile gaming market with like smartphone games and tablet games, but I don't see those games doing particularly well because not everyone is like Nintendo with really noticeable IPs. So I mean, like Sony's not making another handheld. It's not gonna happen. Sorry. So what does this mean for people who are looking forward to another handheld? Basically, it means that Nintendo's going to have a run on the market. It means Nintendo probably won't retire the 3DS for another 2 or 3 years. If there's really, like, at this point, no competition whatsoever, they have no reason. Like, basically, with this in place, all Nintendo has to do is come out with another handheld, if there is a 3DS successor, is to come out with another handheld that's cheap, like between $150 and $200, and and with technology advancing the way it has, all it has to be is cheap, capable of playing certain games, maybe backwards compatible with 3DS, maybe DS if they really want to reach that deep, and boom, they're set. Like, as long as they have that, they're fine. With that being said, I mean, that's tell me what you think. That's the end of this video. I'll go over upcoming events after the cut. So, there will not be a BS Busters this Sunday. I'm going to either do it Saturday or record it Saturday and upload it Sunday. So it'll be a pre-recorded BS Busters. So, if I can get that to go off, it'll be great. If not, well, whatever. But there will not be a live BS Busters this Sunday because I'm going to be going out doing some shit. So, with that being said, that's the end of the video. There will probably not be a Sci-Fi Power Hour-ish. No, wait. There was some news this week. So there will be a Sci-Fi Power Hour-ish this Saturday as well. So that being said, that's the end of the that's the end of the video. Remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe, and peace.